Fritz, my boy. I'm glad to end up seeing you're posting these kinds of videos. It's when you first started posting your Dungeons and Dragons thoughts, shall we say. What ended up happening was you were discussing a fair amount on mechanics. You'd like to tie it back to that. And here, I think a lot, you have a lot stronger of an argument when it ends up coming down to how to implement a character who wants to end up playing something fallen, something that is maligned, twisted, ended up succumbing to the darkness and those impulses. I know a thing or two about that. So, for those of you who have not seen the video is in the description. This is what I'm responding to. Long story short, Fritz ends up talking about a player who wants to end up converting his paladin to a fallen paladin later on to blackguard. And I think this is good, not because he's playing something dark and edgy, but because this requires the player to end up actually figuring out what are the motives that make him do this. Now, as a storyteller, you have to end up accounting for these. What is that player wanting to end up doing? He wants to become a blackguard. Well, let's show him why. And that's very much in the mind of the player as well as the storyteller. The storyteller is there to end up being the world reacting. So you're absolutely right, Fritz, when you end up saying that eventually, through the actions of the blackguard, things start to get twisted. It starts to fall back on them. They start to feel that social pressure because it starts coming back to them. The party starts gaining a bit of a reputation because of this, because, guilt by association is a thing. You also end up having that wonderful point of being able to show the order and taking the logical leap that typically ends up being paladins and how extreme they can actually become. They try and end up presenting themselves as really nice and kindly and a good group of people, but in the end, well, you can become very totalitarian if you end up deciding to end up playing that. You end up having this wonderful little tidbit that you can take and build a campaign around. But even better, I think, is that the falling of this paladin, this player's character, can actually be tied into your story. You oftentimes end up making it a point that your campaigns are very much written ahead of time. You know all the story beats, and you say it yourself. The only thing you need to worry about is if the players decide to end up going down a route that you are not accounting for. The more freedom you give a player, and the more they embrace that freedom, the more likely this is going to happen. It's one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of railroad games. They can be played well. There is actually a reason for a railroad campaign. I personally don't like playing them. I also don't like running them. It just feels like you need to go through the story beats. You need to find some way to worm this in and worm that in. But you want to know what? I like it when I don't know what the story is going to be. They don't know what the story is going to be. We're going to build this story together. And I think that's very much the approach you need to end up taking with this player. This player can, or even not even can, it has the opportunity to be able to end up playing through these motions. How would I end up doing it? Take a look at what they've done in the history. Who have they helped? Who have they who has benefited from the party? And maybe twist that. Show that their actions may not always have the ultra positive benefit that they are hoping for. They are the heroes, but only to some. To others, they may have brought about, as you so colorfully put it, damnation upon this town because of their actions. Let that come back. Let them see the flip side of their actions. Give him a reason to be tempted. Give him a reason to swear vengeance. Give him a reason to see the order in a different light. someone who is not out to kill him, but simply there to works really well for this because they have this tendency to look after this individual and say, "Oh yes, I'm here for you." What? I'm evil? Really? Really? Fascinating about that. But if I am, why am I helping you? For my own gain, certainly. But if my gain is your gain, and my gain is going to help you along the way, well, then isn't it a win-win? Oh, there's corruption here. There's foulness afoot, oh, most definitely, but you would never be able to escape it. I'm just trying to be civil about it. You can take those routes where you can give him the hooks, and a player who is dead set to change their character in a way will follow any hook you end up tossing to them, and you don't even need to force it. They're looking for those hooks. All you need to do is show them the way. When you end up wanting to end up playing these kinds of characters, one of the best things you ended up saying was consequences. Oh, yes, I love that word as a storyteller. The reason I love that word so much as a storyteller is because all too frequently the players do not see the consequences of their actions, and it's something that really needs to be hammered home. One thing I will end up saying, though, prepare for the campaign to take a drastic turn and leave options open at that point, even just a little bit. Let them dictate which rail they're going to follow. It doesn't say you have to flesh them all out. It's just give them some choices that lets the paladin play to his true nature, the thing he's been suppressing all this time. Let him have a chance to show that this was a possibility all along. It doesn't need to be ham-fisted, bang, we're going to end up switching over now because, alignment change and all that. No. Give him a chance to do some subtle hints on it. Let him be tempted and slowly change it over. You like to end up pulling out the concept of Darth Vader. Well, okay. Anakin did not become Darth Vader right out of the gate. It was through little changes that were happening as he went along and his own methodology to things. The indoctrination of the Jedi had not fully set because of how old he was and a whole bunch of other factors. The truth is that anybody can be corrupted, even the so-called incorruptible. Play that out. Have fun with it. Discuss what kind of concepts allure this player. If you know your player base well, this shouldn't be too hard. Talk with them. Discuss the idea. Let it ruminate. And enjoy those delicious possibilities.